Good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. Back in 2019, I was asked by the UK Treasury to lead an independent review on the economics of biodiversity. It's also a global review. It's not addressing any particular country. The review considers nature as an asset, just as produced capital, such as goods and infrastructure, and human capital, such as education and health. But as in the case of education and health, nature is not merely an economic good. We all rely on goods and services nature supplies, but nature's worth goes far beyond its use value. It has intrinsic, even sacred value to many people. Once we make that extension, the economics of biodiversity becomes a study in portfolio management. For we are all asset managers. Through our spending decisions, we all manage our assets in line with our motivations. However, we are collectively failing to manage our global portfolio efficiently. Compared to just a few decades ago, the average person today enjoys a longer and better quality of life. But while we have enjoyed the fruits of economic growth, the way in which we have grown means that our demands on nature have, for some decades, exceeded its ability to supply them sustainably. We are now collectively damaging nature at an alarming rate, fueling extreme risk and uncertainty for our economies. It would seem then that we are living through both the best and worst of times. So what is the root of the problem? First, nature's worth to society is not reflected in market prices. Nature is mobile, silent, and invisible. And so the effects of our actions are hard to trace and go unaccounted for. This makes it very hard for markets to function well. But this isn't simply a case of market failure. It is a broad institutional failure. Our institutions have been unable to create the necessary incentives to economize on our use of nature's fundamental services. Worse, governments subsidize the use of nature. In effect, we pay ourselves to exploit rather than protect our home. Estimates suggest that something like $5 to $7 trillion a year of subsidies we pay to each other in order to exploit nature. The solution starts with understanding a simple truth, that our economies are embedded within nature, not external to it. Accepting this helps us reshape our interpretation of truly sustainable development. We need to change how we think, act, and measure success. And my review sets out three broad transitions that are needed. First, we need to address the imbalance between our demands on nature and its ability to supply that demand on a sustainable basis. On the other hand, this means setting ambitious global targets for meaningful conservation and restoration and investing more in nature to increase the quantity and quality of our stocks of natural assets. On the other hand, it means reducing our global ecological footprint by restructuring our consumption and production patterns, embedding binding environmental objectives, and accounting for impacts on nature along entire supply chains from source to sink. Technological advances certainly have a role to play here, but we cannot rely on technology alone. Institutions matter. Secondly, we need to change our measures of economic success. While GDP is indispensable in short-run macroeconomic analysis, it does not account for the depreciation of assets, including depreciation of nature, and it's therefore wholly unsuitable for identifying how to develop sustainably. Governments and businesses alike must mainstream natural capital accounting. This will serve as a critical step towards making inclusive wealth, and by that I mean the sum of our produced human and natural capital, our key measure of progress. Finally, we must transform our institutions, particularly our financial and education systems, to enable these changes to take place at a global scale. Both public and private financial actors have a role to play in reorienting financial flows towards enhancing our natural assets. And far more support is needed to improve awareness among business and financial institutions of their dependencies, impacts, and risks associated with the degradation of nature. Citizens, too, must be empowered to demand that change, and that cannot happen without enabling individuals, above all through educational policy, to understand and appreciate nature. Thank you.